Hey, what's up everybody? How's it going? I'm the Frame and welcome to the very first episode of my Diablo 2 lore destruction walkthrough with the Amazon. A little while ago, I got a request to do another walkthrough with the Amazon. Previously, I did it with the Assassin. Very fun walkthrough, you should check it out. But yeah, I am going to be doing it here with the Amazon. And I'm going to be using this very first episode to just go over my build path and my stats and all that kind of stuff. Just to get all that logistical stuff out of the way here. Before we get into the actual walkthrough. So first off, we're going to look at our skills here, and we are going to be a Bowazon. So we're going to be focusing in the bow and crossbow skills, and really the only two skills that we're going to be using from this skill tree is magic arrow and multiple shot. First off, let's just go over multiple shot. As you can see here, it magically splits one arrow or bolt into many. So it's essentially just a big wave of death, and it's amazing. And I will usually put as many points as to get it up to around 10 arrows, and that gives you a big enough cone area that to get enough enemies. So you're hitting a good amount of enemies with one shot. That's basically what you want to do. So that's somewhere around 9-ish, I think. I don't remember exactly, but you want to get this skill up about that high before you kind of want to put your stat points elsewhere. Magic arrow is amazing. It is probably one of my favorite skills just because it gets to a point where it doesn't cost any mana. That's super duper helpful here in the early game because your mana pool is kind of bad. So personally, I really like it just for that point alone. But also, it is magic. It is, as the name suggests, it's magic arrow. It uses it's a magically enchanted arrow, so it doesn't use any of your arrows from your quiver. It just magically makes one, which is super neat because, like I said, it doesn't use up any of your ammunition. Super helpful, especially in the early game when you don't have a lot of money. Also, since it is a magic skill, when you get to the later difficulties where enemies have immunities, there are very, very few enemies that have magic immunities. So it's really, really helpful. A lot of people like to argue that freezing arrow is probably the skill you should go for, but in my experience, I don't really like it because I find enemies that are ice immune, and it's just not fun. So I usually go with magic arrow. This is just my opinion. You guys can take it with a grain of salt, You're welcome to go with any build you want. This is the build I'm going to be going with. If you want to follow it, great. If you don't, whatever, it's all good. But yeah, these are basically the two skills that I want to use, and I'm gonna talk about guided arrow here. Also, people like to argue that guided arrow is the one you should go for over magic arrow, but I disagree, and that is mainly because when you get into the passive skill tree, you have pierce, and pierce essentially allows one of your arrows to pass through an enemy and hit the enemy behind it, and this is probably one of the most useful passives that you have, just because you're hitting multiple targets with one arrow, which is super good. But when you use guided arrow, pierce doesn't work. The arrow does not go through an enemy. It just doesn't work with guided arrow, although it does work with magic arrow. So with every arrow that you shoot of magic arrow, you have the possibility of hitting more than one target. Whereas with guided arrow, you can only hit one target ever. It will never pass through an enemy. So that's just another reason why I go with magic arrow. But we're going to go back to the passives here and just kind of go over which ones I'm going to be going for. And critical strike is really, really handy. I usually get it up to the point where I have about 50% crit chance. And 50% crit chance is good because you're hitting 50%. You're getting a crit 50% of the time. So, and that is really where it caps off. Like, you can get it a bit higher, but the return, the more points that you put in it, the return is kind of tapers off a little bit too much. So I only put so many points into it and just kind of leave it there until, super late game when I'm level 99 and I have all these points to put places. Then I'll put some more into crit chance, but just get it to where it's around 50%, and that's good enough. Trust me. Penetrate, another really helpful skill just because it ups your attack rating, and attack rating is fantastic just because it's your chance to hit. And you want a really high chance to hit because that's how you kill enemies, right? And so you just want to really get that high. So you want to put points into this, not too many. You want to make sure to get points into these other skills that I'll be going over. This isn't the most important one, but later in the game it'll become more important. Here in the early game, it's not super important, so don't worry about it right away. Really just put 1 point into it once you get to level 18, and just kind of leave it where it's at for the time being. Later on, we'll start bumping points into that. I kind of already went over Pierce, but I'll just kind of say again, you want to get this to around 50% chance Pierce as well. Same with similar to crit chance. Get around 50%. After a while, the return kind of isn't as good. So you just want to get enough points into it to be around 50% chance and just call it good. Dodge here, I just put 1 point into it here in the early game, just so I have the 18% chance that it'll happen. I just put 1 point into it here in the early game. Later on, down the line, once I get into the later difficulties, I will definitely be putting more points into it. But just for the early game, essentially for these 3 skills here, for dodge, avoid, and evade, put 1 point into them for the early game. That's all you really need. Later on, definitely put more points into them, but just here in normal difficulty, 1 point is sufficient enough. And the other skill that we will be probably be maxing is Valkyrie. Valkyrie is amazing. It's essentially just a minion or a summon that will tank for you, and it is the tankiest of tanks. It is amazing, and it synergizes with evade, avoid, dodge, and decoy and penetrate as well. So it becomes stronger the more points of these passives that you have. So it's just another reason to put more points into these passives, is to make your Valkyrie a lot stronger. And your Valkyrie is really handy, especially as a Bowazon, because as a Bowazon, you are sitting back and trying to kill enemies from afar, and it's really nice to have some sort of tank taking aggro from those monsters, and your Valkyrie plays that role perfectly, along with your mercenary, but we don't have our mercenary yet, and we really won't probably talk about a mercenary at all here. But yeah, you want to get your Valkyrie, you want to get it some really, quite a few points into that, because it's your tank. It's going to be super helpful, especially since we're kind of going to be going for a bit of a glass cannon build, and that kind of segues pretty well into my stats. Essentially, we are going to be pumping dexterity and just be going for dexterity, because this is going to be a bit of a glass cannon build. We really won't be putting too many points into vitality, because we're just going to be sitting back and hitting enemies. Like, we are not planning on getting hit at all. At least that's the plan. We should be able to avoid damage for the most part, so we really won't be putting too many points into vitality. If you're just starting out with this game, I would suggest putting some points into vitality just to get your health a little bit higher, and you will be able to survive some hits if you do take them. But for myself, I'm not really going to be putting any points into vitality. I'm going to be putting mostly everything in dexterity. I might be putting a few points into strength just so I can have a little bit better gear. And by a few points, I'll probably be putting somewhere around 70 to 90-ish.
Good day.
Or getting my strength up to 70 or 90, somewhere around in there, just so I have appropriate gear. But here in the early game, I'll just be maxing the dexterity right here, because it's what dictates how much damage you're doing with your bow. So yeah, we just want to be doing as much damage as possible. And the one way to do that is to pump your dexterity. So that's that. I guess. And the one other thing that I guess I should mention is that we will be playing on Players 8. Just kind of show how to do that. Just type in /players 8. Well, I guess you have to press enter, then /players 8. And that will make it so all the enemies think that you're playing with 8 people. That makes them do more damage, to make them stronger, and give more XP. We will be playing through pretty much probably most of the game on Players 8. If that changes, I'll say so. But yeah, that is essentially what we're going to be doing here for this playthrough. Yeah. I am really excited for this. I hope you guys are too. And in the next episode, we will be taking on the first quest, which is the Den of Evil quest. And yeah, we'll get prepared for that. But until next time, if you like what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button. If you have any comments, questions, advice, go ahead and leave those in the comment section. If you'd like to stay up to date with what I'm doing here with this Diablo 2 lore instruction walkthrough, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I also would appreciate it if you went over to my Facebook and Twitch and liked and followed me over there. I play a lot of D2 on my Twitch stream. So if you want to see some more D2, go ahead and like me over there, or follow me, sorry, over there. And yeah, until next time, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you all next time.